All right, in this video we're talking about how to prepare your clay, otherwise known as wedging. Wedging is one of the most important preparations that you're going to make as you get ready to work with your clay. You got to make sure of a few things, 3 exactly. Number 1, you want to make sure that it's homogeneous. People are going to be throwing back clay in the top of the bin. It might be a little stiffer over here. You might dig down a little bit and get some softer clay over here. You want to make sure that it's all mixed up. Next thing we want to wedge for, next reason, is that we get the particles aligned. If you could see a clay particle, it would look like a flat, kind of irregularly shaped, like a smushed bug on a windshield. When you line up all those particles and stack them really neatly, it's like a brick wall, and it's very strong. When the particles are all kind of mashed together like they are now, it's not a very strong piece. Okay? When you wedge, you also get rid of air pockets. If you have a little air pocket trapped inside your clay and you close it, that air pocket, when you go to bisque your work, will make your piece explode. So we can't have any air pockets, so wedging gets rid of those. And the last reason is sometimes our clay is really wet. Okay, and we never complain about wet clay. Only complain when the clay gets dry. But if the clay is really wet and sticky when we get it out of the bin, we wedge it to remove some of the wetness from the clay so that it's easier for us to work with. So the more you wedge, you can see the table when I pick this up has a lot of water in it. So when I wedge, it's going to take some of that water out, the heat from my hands and the porousness of the table, or if you're working on some canvas, it's going to take some of the water out of the clay also. And then there's like a 5th bonus reason, and it's because it's a good workout. And you can think about what you're going to sculpt and prepare yourself mentally for what you're going to do next. All right, so this is called a cylinder wedging technique, or you could call it a ram's head. It's probably the easiest of the kneading methods. It's good for small amounts of clay. You're going from like 1 to, I've seen people do 5-6 pounds. I'm going to do a quick demo from above so you can watch. When you grab your clay, it's probably going to look like this. A bunch of hunks of clay all stuck together, lots of air pockets, misaligned particles, dehomogenized is the word. And when I wedge, what I like to do to start is to put my hands, my thumbs pointing forward, and my hands on the side of the clay. Get it into a shape. You can drop it on the table a couple times. People like to do that because it's fun. You get your hands on the side and your thumbs pointing forward. And the first step is just to give it a shove. Okay, you see where my palms were on the side here? And I just pushed on it. I'm standing up, by the way, and you got to put your back into it. That shove is important because it gives you the foundation for the next step, which is to lift the clay back a little bit. And see how my hands are back? I can't push at this. I have to rock it back, change my hand position so it's back, fingers pointing down, thumbs pointing across, and then give it another little shove. Lift, hands pointed down, re-grip, give it a shove. Again, slow. You can see the water coming out of that. Okay, it's going to stiffen up your clay, so be aware of that. And you can see what's starting to happen here. Here's my palms where they were, the ones before, the ones before. I'm wedging the clay and creating these layers. Now when I do it full speed, it looks more like this. Lift, push, lift, push. Okay. Now when you look at this, you're going to see a couple of things. You're going to see a spiral happening here, and as the clay is forced up this way, the air is escaping through here. This spiral here is aligning the particles, making them all like a brick wall instead of like a big pile of bricks that are all unorganized. It's making your clay very strong. Okay? This is what it should look like. And this is called the ram's head, because if you put a couple of eyes here, and this is the snout, I guess you could call it, could look kind of like a mountain goat type ram, and this would be the horn, okay? So ram's head, think of this as like your main cylinder if you ignore the front of the ram's head. And it's about the size of a can of 7-Up, okay? Or Dr. Pepper, if you like that better. So you're going to take that can, and you're going to lift it, and always hold the sides of it, hold the horns, and always think about rotating that can a little bit each time. Gives a little bit of a rotation. That's what works the air pockets and really gets the clay moving. All right, a couple of things that could go wrong. And this video is going to be a little bit longer because I'm going to show you what you could do wrong. I see a lot of people that, when they first start wedging, they want to focus a lot on the horns of the ram. They're really squeezing them, okay? And what you end up with is this. It's kind of a Princess Leia looking, looking ram's head. If that happens, you just kind of smush those horns back in. What's happening is you're squeezing too much with your hands. Really, the energy should come from the palm of your hand, and the shove should be there, not the squeeze, okay? Poor ram. Okay, next thing I see a lot with beginners. Look at, you can see air pocket all working their way out. Awesome, that's what you want to see. Okay, next thing I see a lot is people's hands tend to gravitate towards the top of the piece. They're not staying on the side. Okay, thumbs up, 7-Up. So when you push, make sure your hand, here's what happens. If your hands gravitate towards the top, you'll end up lengthening that cylinder. Okay? And this is what our poor ram looks like now. It's sad. It's sad. He doesn't want to have horns that wide. He wants to be a real ram. So again, punch those horns back in and try to keep the dimensions of this cylinder that of a Coke can or Pepsi can. All right. The next thing that could screw you up is if you're focusing too much on the push. People push a little too hard. What happens then, really get worried about, I want to make sure that I push it far enough. And, well, there's the poor ram now. And he's kind of a long-faced ram. Well, just push less. They're little tiny movements that equal up into a nicely wedged piece of clay. If that happens, you're probably, on the right track, but just push a little bit less. Okay, after a while, your table is going to start to acquire some, stickiness. It's important that you move to different areas of the table as you wedge, especially if you're wedging really wet clay. You're going to want to continue to move. Go from this spot, wedge a little here, let this one dry, wedge a little bit here. How many times should you wedge? I like to wedge 50 times. I don't count. I just wedge 5 times, move, 5 times, move, 5 times, move. And I can keep track of the spots on the table. I recommend that beginners learn to wedge 50 times before they build any project. What I'd like to do is just to turn the camera a little bit to the side and try to give you a little bit different angle, if that's at all possible, to give you a little bit more of a side angle on what I'm doing here. Sorry. Okay. So now you can see a side view. So my hands are on it, and what I do here is, you can see it's flat on the bottom. Rock it back. What is that? I don't know. It's about a 30, 40 degree angle. Don't come back all the way like this because you'll mush the ram's nose in if you're back that far. But just rock it back a little bit. Get your grip. Push, lift. Push, lift. Push, lift. You can see go. There's that spiral, the nice ripples. You should be able to count 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. If you get good, 5 and 6 will start to happen. So that's it. once you are done with that wedging technique, what I like to do is put my hands on top and rock the form forward. You don't want to mash that nose in and trap a bunch of air inside your form. So make sure that you fold all of these parts out. Pull him towards you. Okay, and you can see that is a very nicely wedged piece of clay. Of course, your next mission is to learn how to wrap this tightly in plastic and